Good morning and welcome to the EZFX Trade Room broadcast for September 1st, 2016. My name is Bradley Freed. I've been out the last couple of days sick. I'm back today and I want to get us caught up with starting from where we were last Thursday to where we are today. It's been a really great couple of weeks of trading. The trades we've been taking profit on has started really about 3 weeks ago, even a month ago in some cases. We started watching them and they've unfolded really well. And a lot of this, what is happening is we're seeing dollar strength, but we're also seeing a recovery of the pound, which is what I tried to trade last month and ended up stopping out. We took some profit on those trades, but some of them ended up stopping out of break even because I was a little bit ambitious about the profit target before, a little too early in this case. But now we see that pound strength setting up as that currency recovers from the massive drop of the Brexit, and as things sort of become more clear about the post-Brexit world and for the currency. What I want to do right now is start with Thursday's watch list. We're going to run through this list and catch up from here to where we are today. And then we're going to look at the new trades or the new setups that I'm looking at for starting in the next couple of days or next week probably really. And those will be our future opportunities that we'll be looking to trade. So let's run through the watch list from September 1st. We were watching an Aussie Newsy buy. We had new trades, a pound Aussie sell and an Aussie yen buy. Our open trades are the Euro Aussie sell, Euro dollar sell, Aussie Swiss buy, Aussie CAD buy, dollar CAD buy, Euro pound sell, pound Swiss buy, and pound yen buy. So starting with that list, we're going to run through the charts. I'm going to update the list and add in anything that isn't on this list. And then finally, I'm going to add the things that I'm watching to set up in the next couple of weeks. So let's jump to the charts and have a look. As usual, if you have any questions, the chat room is there for you. Please post any questions you have during the broadcast, and I will answer them live at the end. If you're watching the recording, please email me your questions, or you can post to the Trading Room group, which is available to you from the community menu. Or you can also send me a private message via the community. If you have any questions about using the community also, please send me an email at ezfxsignal@gmail.com and I'll help you out getting going on that. And I just went back to the list. Let me choose the right screen view. There we go. So look at the Aussie Newsy buy to get started. This actually stopped out. So the initial trade we ended up taking a small loss on. However, this is setting up again, and this is a 1-2 punch trade. For those of you who purchased the course, you are familiar with the retrade procedure. But I'll go through it here again. Everyone. We stopped out, and I'll have to look back to see what the exact pips were. This pair dropped further, and now it's created a new Class A signal, a new buy bubble. And so we're ready potentially to buy this again. Because we stopped out once, and because this pair has been trending down pretty strongly in a fundamental way, I want to wait for a triangular moving average color change as an additional point of confirmation before we enter the trade. But when we do, depending on the risk to reward ratio, there's several good choices for profit targets above. The best first one would be this weekly pivot from this week. That'd be my first choice if the risk to reward ratio is still about where it is now when we get the final entry confirmation. The next one is the current monthly pivot at 1.0496. That would also be a good initial profit target. For final profit targets, we have last month's monthly pivot, the August monthly pivot. See if I can show it here. Too many lines. Okay, right here at 1.0538. That's a good final profit target. Also the weekly pivot right above it. And if we're looking at Fibonacci, if we need to kind of make the chart smaller, we have this trend here. We use the Fibonacci here to set the target before. We're going to extend that again down to the recent low. And we can use that also to select profit targets. And if we're being even more aggressive with a potential retracement on this pair, then we have a 50% retracement level right at this pivot here. That pivot has never been hit, not that it matters. And then we have a final profit target of 78.6% or the weekly pivot right below it, which is also excellent. So depending on how aggressive you want to be, those are options. My personal preference would be to be a little bit less aggressive, especially if we can get a nice trade size with a pretty tight stop once we have all our confirmation, and try for the weekly pivot here and the current month, or the monthly pivot from last month. Those would be my preferences. But we'll see what happens when the entry happens. We'll make our final determination on profit target then. So we stopped at the first one, but we've got a new one setting up. And I'll add it here as a new trade. All right, so let's look at the pound Aussie. Actually, let's look at the dollar CAD. I don't think this was open at the time we made this list. This trade opened and closed. I set it as a signal down here. It hit its initial profit target and then its final profit target. You can be in this as a trend follower, and I am in this as a trend follower. And what that means is that now that we've hit the final profit target, I'm going to stay in this trade until either one of two things happens. This triangular moving average, this blue line here, changes color to red, and the and or is important, we get an opposite direction Class A signal. So that would be a divergence trend line plus a supply zone. But I think this has a potential to go a lot further. And how much further, do you ask? At least to this supply zone here, 1.31688, which would be a significant profit extension over our initial planned profit target. Or if we break out of this range down here that we've been hitting again and again and again, it could potentially go a lot higher, even to like the March monthly pivot up here. But we don't have to get crazy or anything, but this has been trending up in a very big kind of curvy way for several months now, since April. And I wouldn't be surprised if this might be the time that's going to break out of this range even higher. And then there's some of the obvious targets are the monthly pivots. Not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying that it definitely has a potential to, and it looks like it might be ready to try. So if you want to trend follow, there's nothing that says you have to. We took a really nice profit, really good risk reward on this trade. If you closed it out, that's perfect. You did an excellent job. You took nice profit. You stuck out for the risk reward and for all the profit targets. You move your stop to break even. You manage your risk. You took partial profit. If you did all those things, you did everything right. But you do have an option if you want to be a little bit more aggressive now that your stop's at break even. You've taken partial profit. The trade is profitable no matter what, to try to go a little bit further. And we do have a method to do that, which is what I just described to you. And it's also described in our trading course if you haven't already purchased that. Just to put in a plug. Let's see, dollar CAD, we want to add to the list, right? So it's actually closed officially. And that's a win. And how much did we make on that? At profit target 1, we took 190 pips, and at the final profit target, we took 270. So again, that's an awesome trade. I mean, you could take 270 pips on a planned trade. That's pretty significant in my opinion. Right, moving on. Let's look at the pound Aussie sell. Well, I'm not ready to do that yet. Let's just run through this in order. Euro dollar, this is another trade that it was open last week. It's still open. We're at this point, we've hit our initial profit target. We've moved our stop to break even, so we have no risk, and this trade is profitable. And I think it's going to move lower. And it's been kind of hovering at the top of the zone, producing some Class A signals that I've ignored. Because I think we can get to our final profit target, at least the monthly pivot at 1.1109. And this is the August monthly pivot. Just kind of reveal it here. And it seems to be getting to fall that way, especially since the dollar CAD is kind of pushing up, and it's been gunning to go lower. There's been some resistance. There's some people who think that this is the floor and they want to buy it and they want to go long. I think it's got further to go down. I could be wrong, but I'm willing to hang in there a little bit longer and try and see if we can at least get this far and maybe even trend follow this trade like we're doing the dollar. Like we have the option to do so on the dollar CAD as well. So if we hit that final profit target, we will enjoy a profit of 186 pips. But this trade is currently still open. Aussie Swiss was also on the list. And this is kind of the cool thing because we're trading on the 1 hour chart. So I didn't get to talk to you guys for a few days. However, our trades are moving slow enough that we really didn't miss anything. In fact, it was kind of good to lay back and let these things unfold as they were and give us what they promised, which they did. The Aussie Swiss buy, it hit the initial profit target. We moved the stop to break even. It kind of dropped and it's been moving sideways. It's recently made a new high, retesting the high made here when it hit the initial profit target for the first time. I'm looking for this to break out higher. We haven't had any sell bubbles. So this has sort of been lightly trending higher. When we get a new high, we can easily get, I think, to the final profit target that's missed what weekly pivot at 0.74917 and maybe beyond. So this is still open for me, and it's actually looking real good. Aussie CAD. Aussie CAD is still open. So another one we opened last week. Another signal trade. Just because they take a long time, don't panic and don't get tired of them and close them out. Just let the trade happen. Sometimes these can take 2 or 3 weeks or a month. Sometimes they're done in a few days. And it really depends on the market. This isn't an assembly line. We do have no control over market price action, but we do have control over when we get into the trade and our strategy and believing in the edge of our strategy that we discover when we back test. So this broke this trend line here that I kind of drew to tell me that the trend is starting to continue again. It's made a new high. It's moving towards the current monthly pivot and towards the initial profit target, which we set at the 50% Fibonacci retracement level of this sell trend here, the end of which initiated this trade in the first place. We had a trend line break, a buy bubble, triangular moving average, all the things we look for to get into the trade. And now it's finally moving higher after several days of just kind of moving sideways, which is really irritating, but it does happen. And if we can just hold on and be patient and let the trade do what it's supposed to do, a lot of times it's going to respond and give us our profit. So Aussie CAD is still open. Euro pound. This is a star. This hit its final profit target. I just sent a signal out to you guys to close the trade. But this is also a trend follow trade, like the pound Swiss. I think this has the potential to go a lot further. This is one of the trades I wanted to get back into after we got stopped out at break even of a lot of our pound trades after Brexit. We took profit on most of those at the first profit target, didn't make it to the second. It was a little bit too far, and then it dropped further. In this case, it went higher. Just kind of get our post-Brexit view. Here's our Brexit move. Here's our initial trade. And here's where it moved higher, and we had a break-even stop out after hitting initial profit targets. And now it's starting to drop again. And I think we have potential extending the profit and following the trend to get at least to this July monthly pivot down here, which would be a significant amount of additional profit on this trade. And that's kind of where I'm thinking I'd like to end this trade if it will move in that direction. It could go a lot further. I'm not going to get greedy, but I don't think that's greedy. I think that's just a very long-term 1-2 punch retrade, and that's what we're doing. And I think we can get there. But officially, for our signals, this trade is closed. And I always struggle with that, but I want to take the most conservative. I don't want to. If you're trading this and you're following me, I've been doing this for a while, and this is the third iteration of the system. I really kind of have a more intuitive understanding of this. If you're here for the signals, I want to give you the profit. And in this case, this was a win. And it was also a signal. Oh no, I'm moving the wrong one. Move this back. Okay, so this was the euro pound. And I want to keep the signal marks on here. Euro pound is a sell, is a win. How much did we win, do you ask? Let me move back to the 1 hour chart so we can see it. From the initial entry to the final profit, planned profit target, 205 pips. Not bad. Pound Swiss. This is also moving higher. This is beyond the profit target significantly now. This was the final profit target, the second blue line here. It's now, it's getting close to doubling that. So I'm pretty happy about this. I'm just going to stick with it. And again, what do I like for the target? I like the July monthly pivot. I still want that. And it could go as far as this supply zone here, which was the pre-Brexit kind of retracement when people thought it was going to go the other way after they'd been trading this pair down for months. It could get to 1.41563. I'd be perfectly happy with the July monthly pivot, but we'll see where we are when we get there. And that looks more and more in reach every day. But the pound Swiss officially closed. For win. Its planned profit target, where we had the option to take a profit of, wait for it, like 309 pips, 310 pips. A Euro Aussie was another one that was open. Euro Aussie, unfortunately, it hit its first profit target, so it's not unfortunate. We moved the stop to break even, and then it retraced back up and hit that break even stop. And since then, it really hasn't set up anything. It's kind of moving sideways. There's no clear place to retrade it or take another trade. I do think it'll probably drop eventually, but we just haven't seen price evolve to a point where it's showing us a proper signal. In fact, it's showing us just ranging movement with the triangular moving average color changing color, moving sideways. So we did take partial profit in this at target 1, and we took 0 loss at target 2. We made about 118 pips on this trade, which again, how awesome is that? That's really good. I mean, this was a really good trading week, and I've had these kind of trading weeks before. It had been a while since I've had one this spectacular, especially after Brexit and the choice I made. But if you think long term and you believe in your system, and you remember what you did, you write it down, and you understand what you did a month ago that you were looking at is going to set up again, and then you're ready. That set up, you're conscious and aware of what's happened over the previous months and where you're at and what you believe is going to happen. Then you'll be there when the opportunity happens. You won't just have this short-term view that prevents you from seeing those things happening. And I started talking and I forgot how many pips that was. 118, right? Okay. What else do we have left? The pound Aussie sell. Let's finally take a look at that. Okay, this is a sell trade. It's set up. It was not a signal trade. I don't think I'd sent it out yet. This never really got going. And I kind of figured it wouldn't because of the pound strength. So that's why I didn't get into it. And sure enough, it dropped a bit. It never really got to the initial planned profit target, and it started moving higher. So if anything, this probably would have been a buy trade opportunity, but maybe not a super clear one. You would have had to shift your view around after looking at it as a sell trade, and then think, okay, well, I have this new class B zone here. I have a triangular moving average color change, and then I have a buy bubble. And then at that point, I have a pretty big required stop, 180 pips. If I put the stop up here, it's 135, which is acceptable. And then you would have gotten into it, and that would have been fine. Profit targets above, you could have the first one be a supply zone with the appropriate risk to reward ratio for the first target, and then beyond that, just trend follow. Just don't even worry about a planned profit target for the second. Just hold on. Wait for the countervailing Class A signal to get out. But that's neither here nor there. The point is this never really set up, and it did stop out. And it did stop out really bad. I mean, 95 pips. If you're sizing your trades, that's always 1% or less, no matter what size it is. A stop out should never be an existential crisis. I think when I started trading, I felt like each one was a personal failure. And I really couldn't even bring myself to set hard stops. This was years ago. But once you're used to it, once you understand that's just part of the ebb and flow of taking trades, and once you become profitable in your overall trading activity, then you just don't care anymore. That's just part of it. Okay, so then dollar CAD. The dollar CAD also hit its profit target, so we can also put a close on. Did I already do that? Sorry, just a bit scattered. Yeah, 270 pips. The Aussie yen, that's right. Aussie yen has done spectacularly well. The yen did recover. They had an announcement and this thing moved up. We had drawn a trend line here last week. We'd drawn several trend lines waiting for confirmation where I'd be comfortable to get in. And we finally had a triangular moving average color change in addition to the buy bubble and the Class A signal here. We set a stop below the recent low, not below this monstrous zone created after Brexit, which is just ridiculous. And it took off, sure enough, and it's hit the planned profit target. So this trade is actually over. If you got in here, you had about a 70 pip stop on this trade. Initial profit target, risk reward ratio was not great. So 65, it's a little bit less than 1-to-1. Maybe you got in a little lower and you had a better risk reward ratio. Didn't quite meet our requirements, but it's acceptable. I mean, I don't want to bend the rules. I'm very strict about that, which is probably why I didn't get into it. Also because I had a lot of other trades open and my leverage was down to about 300%, which is my limit. I'm not going to drive it any lower than that to stack up trades in my account. But at least you would have made 127 pips at the final profit target, this monthly pivot, at 77.99. And it's still going. You could be trend following this. If you're already in this, you might want to consider trend following. Officially, as for our trading, for our followers, we're going to close it with a profit of 128 pips. This was not a signal trade. Okay, and finally, pound yen. It's another one that wasn't a signal trade, but it is still moving higher. If you're in this trend, follow it. Pound pair is moving higher. This pair also, like all the others, there's a July monthly pivot right up here at 143.565. I would hold out for that. I don't see any reason not to. Especially if you're already in the money, you move the stop to break even, you've taken partial profit. This is just gonna, there's no reason to panic and dump it right now. Some things to think about. We do have a sell bubble setting up. In a fundamental trend, that doesn't mean a lot, but eventually there's going to be a retracement. So if you had to take profit today, at this moment, now is not a bad time to do it. If you just have to, it's at this higher high. It's making a buy bubble. It looks like it's going to go forever, but maybe it won't. If you already have a massive, profit sitting there, you could go ahead and do that. There's nothing wrong with that, but you could definitely also hold on to it. There's enough rationale there, enough logic, enough evidence to hold on for that July monthly pivot if you want to. So this, however, I'm gonna close because it hit the final plan profit target. And this, I believe we got in on a retracement, like down here, and we had a stop loss of like 82 or something. This wasn't a signal trade, so I don't have a great record of it, but say 520 on this. I think that's reasonable. And that kind of gets us caught up with where we were. And I'm sorry that took a long time. I was kind of enjoying talking about this stuff. You're not well, you have a lot of time to think about stuff and look at things. And then you want, when you do finally get to talk to somebody, you want to share all the things you've been thinking about during that time. So we have 4 open here officially, several that were trend following, zero option. And I'll keep updating you on those. I'm still in those. So I'll keep you updated on what happens. Trend following, especially in situations like this with Brexit, it can be, your largest profits of the year when these events happen. And they happen once or twice a year, like that Brexit. And if you're there and you're ready and you have the cojones to go ahead and take those trades and then trend follow and hold on, they can be your largest profits of the year. I traded $1 yen for adding 10% to my account earlier in the year. And that was and I held on to that for like over a month, but it kept going and going and going. And it was until I got the countervailing signal, and then I went ahead and bailed and I took the profit, and that was almost perfect. Okay, and I promised you, and I know this is running long, I was going to get to what I'm looking at now. And basically what I'm looking at is everything that keeps going further. Everything that keeps going further that looks like it's going to start to go the other way. And one of those is the Aussie dollar. This, I think, is going to keep going lower. I'm not ready to commit to this yet, but I am going to go ahead and draw a trend line over price here. And it maybe this creates a whole new portion down here, and we're going to have to redraw this trend line again. But let's go ahead and start thinking about a long trade. This may not happen for a week to even 10 days, but I want to start watching it, and that's the beauty about what we do. This is just a buy. But we start looking when these things haven't set up yet, and then we're ready when they do. Dollar Swiss sell, this is another one. I drew a trend line into price. It's probably moving higher, dollar strength and all that. But I want to get ready to when the sell setup comes. Here's a newsy buy. This is another one I like. It's been moving lower. It's making a class A signal here. I drew a trend line above price at this most recent downward portion of the trend. Euro's moving lower, so it's probably going to move lower against this currency. If we look at a 4-hour chart for a better view, this is what we have. It made a low here after this downward trend. Then it rose up, made a higher low, and maybe a higher low here. So if it rises up and breaks again, it could be time for it to go up and hit the August monthly pivot. I'm sorry, the July monthly pivot, and maybe even retrace beyond to the June monthly pivot up here. That's kind of what I'm thinking about this. It's not ready yet, but we're going to be ready when it's ready. Opportunity buy. On use and sell, same deal. Let's try to list these up. Pound yen sell is another one. Its trend move has not nearly ended, but when it does end, we'll be ready. And we'll be looking for that setup. Remember that trading is a two-dimensional enterprise. And I don't trade the dollar rand. Some people do. I have a subscriber in my Japanese trading room who wants me to follow it for him, so I'm doing that, but I don't trade that. Doesn't mean it's not good to trade. It's just I haven't tested it at all. This pound CAD just did spectacularly. This was another pound retracement trade. There was an entry down here. I don't remember exactly what happened to this. I'd have to go back, but it hit all the planned profit targets, and it's almost gotten back to this high up here. It's been a spectacular performer. That's why I talk about sometimes you'll get out of a trade, you have an exit signal, you get out, and then a few weeks later you go back and it's done everything that you planned for it to do, and it's infuriating. Because if you just held on a little longer, that would have been your opportunity. That would have been your trade result. Dollar peso, it hit its final profit target here. This is another one we were kind of looking at, and it's gone further. So everything dollar has gone up. It's done everything it was supposed to do. It gave us a clear entry, and the trade did everything that we wanted it to. So being aware, being on top of these things, making sure you don't forget about what happened a month ago, 3 months ago, making sure that you're tracking the opportunities that are coming out of those even failed trades because of a long-term idea you had, and not forgetting about it, always being aware of it every day, reminding yourself of your watch list when you look at your trades, what you're looking at. And don't get distracted by the near term or needing to find a trade today or this week or thinking that something new is going to happen every day, because it's not. Nothing's new. What it is price evolving and showing you opportunities, and then you taking those opportunities and making money with them. And you're not always going to make money the first time, but over the long term, you stick with them, you stick with an idea, you're going to make money. And there's really no secret to it. It's a matter of having memory, and it's a matter of having the discipline to force yourself to remember and stay focused over a long period of time on the same ideas and the same things until they work, until they give you money. That's it. So I'm going to stop there. That's our initial kind of very, very early stages watch list for the new things I'm looking at to trade. That will continue to evolve as price evolves and starts to show us setups, and then we'll think about taking trades together. The only thing new that I would consider looking at getting into is this Aussie Newsy buy, and if it does set up, I will take a trade and I'll send out a signal to everybody about that trade. So I think I've got us all cut up. Again, I'm sorry for being out for the last couple days. I do appreciate your patience, and I'm very happy that we've had a lot of profitable trades. And I've gotten some nice email from our subscribers about the trading performance. It's not always going to be that way. There's going to be good weeks and bad weeks, but we do have these good weeks, and it's important to celebrate and enjoy those when they do happen. And hopefully we'll have more good ones and bad ones. Anyway, thank you very much for watching this trading room. We went a little long today. I won't be back until Monday. That's our next scheduled trading room. And I'll be looking forward to seeing you there, or hopefully having you watch the recording and sending me some questions. Take care and have a great trading day. I'll see you soon, everybody. Bye.